Oh, hi there, everybody. You have once again reached the Smooth Thrills Radio Hour, where we explore movies, both famous and infamous, both in their cultural context at the time of release, and how we relate to them now, if we do at all. In this episode, we're revisiting the Satanic Panic of the 1980s. It's a topic we first touched on in the episode all about the TV movie Mazes and Monsters. This time around, we're talking about a somewhat late entry in the cycle. It's the Canadian horror thriller, The Gate. You know it, you love it. Nathan, Katie, and Joe are all here to discuss this. But first, Glenn, Terry, how was your weekend?
Hey, did you guys dig in that hole again? We accidentally summoned demons who used to rule the universe to come and take over the world.
I've heard a few things.
No, because like Funimation and Crunchyroll and all, their English stuff is amazing. The only time English dubs suck is when you take a non-English speaking film and then they put really shitty dubs over top of it for Netflix so it'll reach a wider audience because they're not worth anything. Like Squid Games or the platform that came out a couple years ago, the English dub on that was atrocious.
I just learned to speak like different languages so I can watch their movies.
Did you, Joe?
Yes.
Did you really? Okay.
I did, Jason.
He knows all of Paul Naschy's filmography verbatim.
I know all about
Naschy?
Paul Nash.
So you've seen The Lure in the original Polish instead of the watching the
I've
subtitles?
seen the
Of course.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's a great fishing movie. And it's
really
very
caught
nice to
his
see
attention.
them fishing in Poland.
I can tell you've seen the movie a couple of times based on your description.
No, just the once.
right
Just
there.
the once. I didn't need a second viewing. I just couldn't. It seemed like it was. It took too much out of my soul the first time
Tugged
around,
at the
and
heartstrings.
I couldn't give back
with its
Yeah.
what I
fishing
wanted.
line. Yeah.
Cool.
The Gate.
If we will get started, what I got in my hand right now is a little booklet commonly known as a chick tract. Not those kind of chicks, though. It's not a Tijuana Bible or something like that. No, it's named after its creator, a guy named John Chick. These booklets are pretty small. They're about 2 inches by 5 inches. Each one tells a little story in the form of a cartoon. Stories meant to instruct the righteous and the heathens alike on how to avoid spending their eternity in the grim fires of hell. Unless, of course, you're already Catholic or Jewish, in which case the books make it clear there's just no helping you. You've made your choice. Now, there have been more than 100 of these stories printed over many hundreds of thousands of issues. So if you've ever spent much time in the American Bible Belt, there's actually a pretty good chance you've seen one of these things. Churches would buy them in lots of 10,000 or so, and then just casually leave them lying around in offices and libraries, places where sinners tend to congregate, so that they might be found and hopefully read and followed, thus saving the world from demons and such. Now, as you might imagine, after several hundred issues, the list of things that the righteous should avoid to stay out of hell and so on has gotten pretty long. That list includes, but is certainly not limited to, the following. The Church of Satan. I know, seems obvious, you gotta cover your bases here, though. Scientology, astrology, Buddhism, Hinduism, Wicca, voodoo, yoga, meditation, firewalking, tarot cards, Ouija boards, marijuana, LSD, video games, goth culture, vampirism, vegetarianism, and of course, the rock and roll music. Rock and roll music, as you know, is the primary tool that Satan himself uses to corrupt our youth. Most of the time, Satan's demonic messages in the music are obvious, but sometimes they are carefully hidden, only revealed if you play the music backwards. But by the time you figure that out, of course, it's too late. You're already in the evil one's clutches forever. But we're not afraid of any of that stuff now, are we, dear listeners? Oh no, we're going all in today, so put up your favorite Duran Duran posters, wrap yourself up in your favorite blanket, light some candles, and get down the turntable. But keep a close eye on that giant hole in the backyard, too. We're going to see if we can get some friends to come out and play as we open up the gate. Welcome, everyone, to the Smooth Thrills Radio Hour. We are indeed talking about a pinnacle of 1987 Canadian horror films, The Gate. I think a lot of us have seen this one a few times. I know I have. Joe, I don't know. Have you? How many times?
Yes,
How many viewings has this been for you at this point?
I would say more than 5, less than 10. It's been in rotation over the years since I was a kid. I saw it early on, so
Probably like myself, he caught up with it on home video because I do not remember the theatrical release for this movie at all.
no, I didn't. I've never seen it in the theater, but I didn't. It was on cable.
Very
I think the
scant,
first time I saw it.
Oh yeah, HBO and Cinemax, heavy rotation for sure on there.
This and The Stuff, right?
Did
we
Stuff?
do The Stuff? Have we done an episode?
No, we haven't talked about the stuff. We tangentially
good
Called
talked
The
about
Right
baby.
Stuff, not The Stuff Right. And I'm talking, of course, about Vanessa Williams' hit single.
Of course.
Oh, The Stuffed Crust.
Not remembering it released in theaters is kind of understandable because it came out at kind of a weird time. This was May of '87. Also in theaters, you had stuff like Platoon, Lethal Weapon, Blind Date, Secret of My Success, several
Saw
sequels
both of those in the theater.
Yeah, several sequels in order of their sequelosity. Beverly Hills Cop 2, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and Police Academy 4. So it was pretty easy to get lost in that mix, especially being a, $2.5 million budget Canadian horror film.
With Stephen Dorff.
With Stephen Dorff.
Well, and also the distribution on that was not all that strong.
Who was the distributor on this thing?
New Century.
I know New Century Entertainment was produced.
Yeah.
They distributed also?
Yeah. Well, the Vista organization, it was a co-distribution with Vista, which, I don't know if you know the history of Vista, but the president of the company was the father who got murdered in, I'm gonna blank.
Oh.
The brothers that killed their parents in the late 80s.
Menendez brothers?
Yes.
The guys that were like, oh, they were
Wow.
Asian. They might have spoke
From
Asian. I think
Cable
they
Guy
were
does a great
Asian.
spoof of it. Yeah, yeah.
Damn, really?
Yeah, he
I could see where that would hurt distribution. Yeah.
Anyway, the Vista organization kind of plummeted, and a lot of their films didn't get the big distribution that they deserved, one of which was like Fright Night Part 2, and a few others around that time. You just barely would know they were in theaters, but you knew about them for sure on home video.
What kind of distribution did Fright Night Part 2 deserve?
Are you
I love
suggesting
Fright Night
that
Part 2.
it shouldn't have been put out in the first place, or come on?
It's a classic. Tommy Lee Wallace did a good job.
Well, I was going to ask if they were involved with any of the other Canadian horror at the time, like Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, Graveyard Shift, or the Care Bears Adventures in Wonderland. Were they a part of any of those, or
No.
to your knowledge, best of your knowledge? No.
No. Although all of those didn't really get big distribution either.
Didn't Care Bears movie 2 get squashed by some, Satanic Panic type shit?
I think you're thinking of Teletubbies.
No.
No, I do remember
because I
something
remember
like
distinctly.
that. They were saying they were
A lot of Christians were going crazy.
subliminal messaging or some shit with the Care Bears is bullshit. Yeah.
That is true. And I mentioned this movie in the terms of backmasking and subliminal messages, in that is one of the very few I could find that actually touched on the subject. I mean, there was a lot of that going around toward the late 80s end of the Satanic Panic cycle that kind of started with Dungeons and Dragons and then wound its way through just about everything else people did for fun. It's kind of unusual in that the Evil album that they put up is both probably the cause of and possibly solution to their problems, which is really unusual. That's a weird take to have on it. Usually it's, you think it's the other way around, that it's the album that, well, we're kind of taking Terry's word for it in this movie that he's reading the instructions correctly and that he's doing this right and he's actually pushing the demons away by playing it backwards. I don't know. He doesn't seem like that together enough guy to really take his opinion seriously on what's going on with this album.
But he was right about the guy buried in the wall.
Yeah,
he
was
made
awesome.
that up, though.
Sure he did. That was his Stir of Echoes moment there.
There's a lot of stuff from other movies going on in here. They kind of threw the kitchen sink at this thing. I mean, they're little claymation guys, they're stop motion, and sometimes it's real guys in suits. It's got a lot of poltergeist thrown in there for sure. You could maybe say they touch on phenomena a bit with all the bugs that are used in one part of it. they kind of just launch everything at you in this thing. Why does Steven Dorff end up with an eyeball in his palm? I don't know.
Yeah.
It just kind of does. It doesn't
'Cause he
make any
needed something
sense.
to stab.
Why not? Oh yeah, gotta get stabby with it.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that for a second, because you brought up Poltergeist, and
I
up
think that
until
was that was called dial a demon. If you get an eyeball in your palm and you stab it, that's how you get a demon back up.
oh, okay.
I've never heard that before, but okay.
Yeah, it's dial a demon.
Anyway, Nathan, you were talking about Poltergeist?
No, just like the traumatic, and I'm sure most of us grew up watching The Gate and movies like Poltergeist, and trying to think of other PG or PG-13 movies that were really like Ghoulies and Troll and that kind of shit that would always play like on HBO in the afternoons, and it would just give kids nightmares. The Gate almost doubled up on that, as far as like you say, they throw all these elements in play here. And you're like, how is this even PG-13, this movie, in a way? Yeah, it's a kid's movie. It's not as harmless as The Monster Squad, though, which is also PG-13. But it's pretty intense shit.
Not that gory.
Yeah, but you're dealing
Wait,
with
what's not that gory?
death and satanic verses.
More of
and
a
all kinds of shit like
traumatic.
that.
Yeah,
Well, okay,
it has
like
more
this
trauma
movie,
in it than gore.
Yeah, this
it's just
movie. Okay,
scary.
for one,
Yeah.
I've got some. There's the scene that had, for me, it was trauma and it was gore. Is whenever the father and the mom show back up, and he runs up, gives his dad a hug, and his dad looks down and goes, "You've been bad." Like that is a running thing in our household since I showed the movie to
just
years ago.
The whole bit with Terry thinking it's his mom, and then it just turns out to be a dead dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that poor dog just gets lugged around from place to place, and then inevitably shoved in a hole in the backyard.
I want to say that this movie and I believe People Under the Stairs are the two movies that kind of planted some kind of seed in my head that I shouldn't trust adults.
It's funny you mentioned that, because the whole time I was watching this, I just kept thinking of People Under the Stairs. Like, it's not similar in a lot of, like, it's just tonally, it's very similar.
Yeah.
It has the very much the this is a child, and especially if you're watching it as a child, this is a child, this is you.
You should be able to trust adults.
You should be able to trust adults, not just trust adults, but trust these adults in case in the Gate, that your parents. And then also you can't escape from where you're at.
Yeah.
So you're stuck in a place with adults that you should be able to trust that you can't. And you're in mortal danger.
Yeah.
In a place like your home that you should feel safe at.
Exactly.
Or like Invaders from Mars is another one too. The remake in particular.
Oh yes, yes. That's the other one.
Does this feel to you guys like maybe it's like Poltergeist, but told from the kid's perspective instead of from the adult's perspective?
Because the people I watched it with, he kept mentioning Poltergeist.
Yeah, and that whole scene with the moths in the jar reminds me of Oliver Robbins and looking at the tree and Poltergeist and through the window and the shadow and all that shit.
I definitely appreciated that they did a lot of those old school tricks, like the shadows on the wall instead of showing you the thing that's that's hanging around outside instead. That always works. It worked in the 30s, it still works. Love it. They did a lot of good effects in this thing. I was really pretty impressed with it.
Forced perspective.
Some of my favorite creature effects too.
Yeah.
Like in any movie still.
The great Randall William Cook. Yeah.
Randall William Cook, also responsible for Laser Blast, The Day Time Ended. Movies you may have heard of, like The Thing, Ghostbusters, 2010, Fright Night, Dr. Mordred. He worked on Lord of the Rings after this. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing. He used a lot of forced perspective shots, too. A lot of those shots of the little minions were full-grown men in costumes on giant sets, which is just brilliant. Yeah. But they mix that up between that and some stop motion and some puppets to always kind of keep you guessing at what you're looking at, and it just works. There's some bad shots in it. There's some chroma key shit.
Yeah, but it still looks good.
The one that I really hated was whenever he gets blasted at the end, out the door, and he does the triple Indy. And
just kind of gets up
like in Back to School.
Well,
I didn't dislocate my hip at all getting picked up by a monster like that and flung out a window. No problem.
I think one of the fakest things in the movie, though, out of everything, is the levitation scene. Like, I just think that's... You're like, that's one of the... That should be far more realistic than any of the other shit in the movie.
Do you think it's done on purpose, though? because
Maybe.
then
Maybe they're
it
setting
makes
you
it
up
less
for.
believable when Glenn freaks out about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because he is quite the
Because I mean,
crybaby
why would they
throughout.
have like great effects on everything else? But
Thing else,
Yeah, like
but this.
it almost makes it seem intentional.
That makes sense.
Right, and they're also not going to show you
Mm.
everything in their trick bag quite yet, perhaps. And then the movie grows in that momentum to the holy shit aspect. What are we watching?
I'm just still not over that poor dead dog just getting carried here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, like what? It's a beloved family member, and you're passing it
okay,
off on
he
this
comes
dude
back.
to take to
But
this fucking animal place. He's like, sorry, dude,
yeah,
no
but
vacancies.
I do love the fact that
Can't trust Eric.
when he's standing at the door with it to try to get back inside, like you can actually tell like there's heft to it instead of him just like carefully.
I got something on this. I was looking at the trivia on IMDb, and I don't know, because it's user submitted. I don't know how true this is.
Sure.
But one of the entries was the guy that played Eric. He was having so much trouble carrying around this dog carcass that they went ahead and took the guts and organs out to make it lighter.
That was
No. You don't have no.
That's actually on the
There's
trivia.
no way in hell that is a real dog
No.
carcass.
No. No.
because you know how long that would take to
Died
shoot
when
all
it
those
right.
scenes.
That's
They're not
the-
going to keep that on
Holy
set.
shit.
No.
Unless it was
God
like a
bless.
taxidermy
IMDb
dog,
is-
like a poorly taxidermy dog. But there's
Which
no
should
way
have had
that...
the organs removed if it were.
Because the
That
scene
too.
where he's sitting in the front seat and he's just got those like amber golden bug eyes, like no.
How great would it have been if we had the B story was Eric driving this dog to everywhere, but he had to make sure
Like trying
that
to
people thought the dog was still alive. So he's
So
doing
it's
a weekend at
Weekend at
Bernie's with
Bernie's?
it. Yeah, exactly.
We'll save it for the sequel. There was a sequel
Weekend
to
at
this,
Bernie's,
but
too,
I haven't
yeah.
seen
Oh,
The Gate
yeah,
2.
this
Is
one.
anybody?
Yes.
Angus?
I have it. I just
Yeah.
haven't watched it yet because I've been waiting on Ian because he wants to watch it with me.
I think Louis Tripp was the only returning
was,
cast
yes.
member
Didn't Terry
But
go
it
through
was-
for The
enough in
Gate
the first
2.
one?
He did. They
He
did
got
try to
stabbed in
get
the eye with a
Steven.
Barbie doll foot.
I still feel
Yeah.
like that was less traumatizing than thinking you're hugging your dead mom and then just holding a dead dog. Like,
And the dog's loving that moment, by the way. That poor
But
thing. And he's just like, "Rah!"
what's
and he
more
throws it on the
traumatizing,
ground.
that or whenever you're hugging your dad and you touch his face and his face starts
turns to chocolate
melting and
milk and-
disintegrating and then falls off? Like, that's fucked up too.
I'd rather do that.
And how about when the mom yells at you and then her head falls off and she can't yell at you anymore because she doesn't have
Just
a
look at
head?
a throat, though.
How about that?
Probably working
Think
on
about it.
That was some terrifying gurgling.
So I
Oh
think
no, mom's gargling again.
Gate 2's worthwhile. It's the same
Yeah.
group of people making it. You've got Tibor Takis, you've got Randall William Cook, you've got the same writer, Michael Nankin. Yeah.
Same writer.
So-
Same producer.
What's the premise of the second one? Is there a new hole in the backyard? Full of geodes?
No, it's basically he's
It's even gatier than the last.
no the plot is that it
Guys.
follows Terry. They tried to get Steven Dorff back. He wasn't really interested, and they thought, well, it'd be the same movie if we brought him back anyway. So, what if we follow Terry's character, and then he just plays with the whole world of demonology, and he's got a single
Terry's
parent.
character was
His
far
dad's
more
an alcoholic.
interesting
Yeah.
Mhm. His
And then
dad's
you've
garbage
got-
can.
Pamela Segal / Adlon is the female lead in it. She's great in it, and it's a
Oh
lot
my
of
God.
fun. It's
Is she
it's
really?
nowhere on par. Yeah, she's in it. Dude, I had such a crush on her
Mhm.
in the 80s. From Grease 2 up to Gate 2, I'm like, come on, you're doing all the great shit that I love, She was,
Are there minions in the second one?
yes. Well, there's
Sorry.
yes,
Oh, you can't.
there's a normal
you can't not
minion,
reuse
for
those, come
sure,
on.
and then there's some bigger-than-life minions, and it's fun. It's R-rated
Is that one
versus
named Steve
PG-13.
Carell?
No, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Yeah, it is R-rated. I noticed on the back it said it was R-rated for, I think it said drug use.
Yeah, there's all kinds of weird shit.
So I guess the
in it.
minions are all heroin addicts.
Well, I don't want to give things away,
No.
but you could say heroin is a gateway drug. Huh?
Oh,
I want to talk a little bit about this album that is the centerpiece of this whole movie. Can you imagine putting out an LP with a booklet in it, a color booklet that folds out and all that? That must have been expensive as hell to make one of those things. How many pressings of this LP do you think there could possibly have been?
Tower Records used to do that all the time in the 70s. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
They had like a whole
Kojak,
thing.
I've got
Did
Planet
anybody
of the
buy
Apes, Star
this,
Treks.
the release? Did anybody buy the release of this soundtrack?
This Terror Vision,
That
that
came
I
out?
haven't bought it yet, no. But you do have the option of getting the Sacrifix album cover.
Yeah, it comes with it. And it's really awesome. It's like basically you're getting the soundtrack in a prop.
Nice.
Have you played it backwards yet,
No,
Joe?
I
It's
like
a
my
score
needles.
anyway. There's no words.
Well, let's take it back a bit then, speaking of this album, and playing it backwards to either open up the gate or close the gate, depending on who's reading the directions. Where this all got started, where this became a part of the Satanic Panic, goes all the way back to 1982. April 1982. Something called the California Assembly's Consumer Protection and Toxics Committee met to hear all about this horrible song that had a satanic message in it when he played it backwards. Assemblyman Philip Wyman and a panel witness going by the name of William H. Yarrell II gave everybody in the room a handout that explained what they were about to hear, then played a section of the song forward and then backward, claiming to reveal the evil message. Not only had he revealed the message, he also claimed, Yarrell did, that hearing this only 3 times was enough to drill it into your head forever and forever corrupt you. Now, California tried to pass a bill to put satanic warning stickers on every album. It didn't go anywhere. And I'm just kind of reaching out here. Have any of you heard the name Robert Dornan before? I'd be surprised if you had,
I
really.
think we all agreed
said
to say
uh-huh.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, for anybody who doesn't know, Robert Dornan was a California congressman who was close friends with Rush Limbaugh. If you can imagine Rush Limbaugh, but without the tact and charm and sensitivity, that was Bob Dornan. He tried to get a law passed at the national level to put warning stickers about satanic messages on albums, and it went absolutely nowhere then either. They laughed him out of committee. That song, by the way, that started all this Satanic Panic with backwards messages was, of course, Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. We're going to try a little experiment. I'm going to play some clips from different songs that have been accused of hiding backwards messages, and we'll see what you come up with. Now, unlike what they did in this meeting, I'm not going to tell you in advance what you're supposed to be hearing. We're going to see how you feel about it. Beginning with...
Is Coven on this list?
No, I'm intentionally leaving out anything that was done intentionally, that we know was done intentionally. The Beatles did this a lot. Pink Floyd did it a few times. I mean, Frank Zappa recorded an entire song backwards. I think it was Yahazna. We're leaving those out. This is just stuff that more insidious, let's say, more hidden. You're going to hear the clip forward, and then we'll play it backwards and see how it goes.
Cool.
This is going to be tricky. Hang on.
Exciting.
I'm excited.
Okay, everybody good with that? And now, with Satan's message revealed.
No one's getting something.
Good guess. Good guess.
I've got
Anybody?
confirmation that I don't like Led Zeppelin forwards or backwards.
Wow.
Nathan's
Why?
face.
It's a horrible admission. Continue.
Nathan, what?
I don't know. I'm open to whatever.
Well,
I
supposedly-
don't think it's deliberate, but whatever.
Mm-mm.
No. Well, supposedly what you heard just then was, "I live for Satan. The Lord turns me off. There's no escaping it. Here's to my sweet Satan. There's power in Satan."
You don't get
There's
that
not even
with
that
your
many
nice
words
message.
the first
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
around.
Nobody- Nope. Nobody got
There's
that?
not enough S's
picked up
and
on
really
that?
makes
Well,
me
see, this is
wonder to
why
get all that satanic.
also, wouldn't it be? I think it should be "The Lord turns me on" instead of "turns me off."
Well, hey, according to the Parents Against Subliminal Seduction, otherwise known as PASS, that's what you heard in that song.
So this was
No
in.
denying.
No
You're
denying
saying
it. You
this.
heard it.
You got it.
So you said 82 earlier. Is that when they
Right.
came up with this divulsion that it was Led Zeppelin all the way back to Led Zeppelin 4's album from, 71? It took them 11
I'm so
years
glad
to
I
come to
wasn't
this
born yet.
conclusion?
There was probably...
Like, I know it was rumored throughout the
Yeah,
70s whenever the album was out and everything, but
They were too busy trying to determine if Paul McCartney was actually alive or dead.
yeah, in the 80s they were still trying to figure it out.
I just think it was the first time there was a public hearing
Okay.
about this kind of stuff. There was probably talk about it before, but nothing like
Lots
that.
of private hearings.
So moving on, lots of private hearings. So this one might be a little more obvious. This is the Cars it's a weird little song called Shooby Doo. Here's the clip forward. They got it. And now with the satanic message reveal.
I think it sounded better as a satanic song forward than it did backwards.
Yeah. It's also the Cars. There's no
Yes,
Satanism going on there. That's a bunch of hogwash.
Well, supposedly he's saying... Supposedly they're saying
what they
Satan,
want you to
Satan,
think.
Satan over and over and over
Exactly.
again.
It's a facade.
That does remind me, Katie, that the weirdest rumor I ran into on this was about Depeche Mode. There was an allegation that Depeche Mode, Pleasure Little Treasure, if you play it backwards, you get a secret S&M message. And I'm just thinking, those messages are perfectly forward.
Yeah,
on the
they've
album
never
anyway.
hidden them
They've
before.
they've never hidden this
I mean,
stuff.
unless it's
Why
a
would they bother?
doing an Easter egg or something. I mean, but
It's when you have a song by them that doesn't have S&M undertones that you need to worry.
yeah,
Those are the ones you play backwards. That's
right.
That's
To
why they
see
never found anything in like a
the
Marilyn
wholesome
Manson.
lyrics. Yeah.
Going back a little bit further, Jefferson Starship.
Ooh.
It's a groovy little tune called A Child Is Coming, which is about an unwanted pregnancy followed by a possible scheme to defraud the IRS. But there is a satanic message hidden in this song.
One typically leads to the other.
So here's the clip forward.
No, that's the fix.
It's getting better. It's getting better. It's getting better. It's growing brighter. Shining. It's getting better. Change. It's getting better. It's getting brighter. Spread together with each other. It's getting finer to tell the truth. It's getting finer to be alive. It's getting better to be wrong. It's getting
And now in reverse. Anybody? Any
Remember
ideas?
in the late 90s, early 2000s when they remade House on Haunted Hill and 13 Ghosts and all that? That's just what
Yeah.
the ghosts sound like in those movies.
Supposedly
Yeah.
he's saying "Son of Satan" over and over and over again there. Anybody?
I mean, you take
That means
any
it's-
song, and
nobody-
it's like the
Unwanted
Rorschach
Child.
test. You can listen to it backwards and
Oh, yeah.
decipher whatever you want.
Well, doesn't that have a name? Like when you give a
Backmasking?
phrase and they'll like hear it even though it's not really in it, but because you put it in the mind, it makes you think that you've heard it.
Right.
Like the power of suggestion.
Right.
You mean?
This was what happened at that original hearing in California, was they told everyone in advance, this is what you're going to hear, so that's what they heard.
Oh, there you go.
There is one other example that maybe is a little clearer. Hit it, Freddie.
Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. Ow! Another one bites the dust. Hey, hey! Another one bites the dust.
And now backwards.
No one. No one. No one. No one.
Decide to fuck no one.
Marijuana.
That's what I
I
hear.
heard this. I heard decide to fuck down under.
Maybe
Well,
it's
okay.
decide to smoke marijuana.
Yes, if I told you that the rumor was that he's saying it's fun to smoke marijuana. Say it one more time.
Why wouldn't you just sing that forward though? Because it is fun to
I
smoke marijuana.
Also,
Yeah, are you?
I
We're
don't
talking
know what
again
it's
like
called.
After I
It's
told
like-
you, though, it was much clearer, right? That you were supposed to be hearing
Yeah.
this.
And I know what that phrase is called now. It's the Bader-Meinhof phenomena,
okay.
where you will then, like, if you are influenced as to
Hmm.
what you're going to hear, and it's even
Right.
done it down to where they'll give you two different phrases, and depending on what phrase you're thinking of when you listen to it, that is what you'll hear.
Mm.
Sort of like the things like on Facebook where it's like, is the dress blue or is it purple?
Mhm.
Sure.
Well, there is one that came out a couple years ago that had to do with, it was like the Green Needle brainstorm thing. And depending on whether you thought of Green Needle or brainstorm when the sound clip played, that is what you would hear. And it is just a regular video. It's not like, oh, one plays this, one plays the other. But it is this phenomena where basically, like Nathan said, it's just the power of suggestion.
Right. I could have come up with 100 other clips, but you get the
I was
idea.
gonna say, what was
This-
the? I can't recall the issue with Judas Priest. What song was that the guy whatever committed suicide or it was court
Here,
trials?
I'm glad you asked, Nathan, because I happen to have that
I am
very
too,
clip ready to go
Jason.
in case it came up. What happened was Judas Priest song Better By You.
Okay, yeah.
The accusation was that if you listen to it backwards, he's saying do it over and over again, and the parents alleged that this drove their son to suicide. This led to a court case in which Rob Halford was requested to recreate the lyric on the stand to demonstrate his vocal technique was all that was causing this weird thing to happen. It was so embarrassing and so ridiculous that the judge actually apologized to Judas Priest that they were ever brought into court on this in the first place. But in case you're wondering what that whole thing was like, it sounded a little like this.
Sounded a little something like this.
Better by you, better than me. You can say what I only can see.
Thank you. Is the exhalation of breath?
Yes.
And, and now in reverse.
Say.
I heard I'm gonna smack you while you're sleeping.
I just feel like I'm watching Twin Peaks. All the Red Room stuff.
Yeah.
I forget when that case came up. I think it was later in the cycle. I think it was closer to, I think it was the 90s, wasn't it? I don't remember
No,
exactly.
it was
when
like
this happened.
mid-'80s. If I recall.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, that's why you have movies that really focused on this kind of stuff, like Trick or Treat and The Gate. The whole backmasking thing became...
Yeah.
That was like a big deal. I remember that being I remember seeing it on the nightly news. They would show
Right.
the clips of the court trial and all that crazy shit.
Even though it was over and done, growing up for me, I even remember hearing about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
think-
whenever hackers came out in the 90s, everybody was a hacker if you had a computer.
Yeah, and I went to a screening of Hackers, by the way, and there was a guy coughing through the whole fucking movie. Hacker.
No, there is something to what Joe said, Katie, because after my parents saw War Games, I was not allowed to have a modem on my Commodore 64 because I might start World War III just accidentally.
And he wasn't allowed to go to Ireland and drive a car.
Trying to download.
No.
No, as far as I know, there's never been a lick of scientific evidence suggesting that putting a backwards message onto an album does anything at all. I think, like, what was his name? Let me find it real quick. The guy who's running A&M Records at the time that
Atlantic.
the whole Led Zeppelin thing came up. He just said, if we were going to put a backwards message like that onto an album, we would put a message that said, buy 7 more records instead of wanting to kill off our audience. It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
I think people had fun with it more so in the 80s and did do that kind of stuff deliberately, but it was never like, the examples you're playing here are choruses, right? And this would be usually stuff that they put in during like an instrumental. You'd hear like a slight lyric in the background, and you'd go back and you backmask it and hear something. But I mean, it's difficult enough to write great music.
They say is in Disney movies, because they always have those like hidden messages.
That's there because
Disney
those are bored
too.
animators.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
I'm still.
Joel's right about that.
Some of them, it's like, am I hearing it though because I was told it was in it?
Yeah.
Or is it there because it was put there?
Right.
Yep.
Am I seeing it or hearing it because there's this whole like lineage of legend that's where it is, and because I don't know.
I definitely think it's Sex in the Clouds and it's a dildo on the castle.
Well, there's the whole part where Aladdin supposedly tells Jasmine to take off all her clothes on the balcony scene. You have to turn it up like really, really loud, and it's like, but is it actually there, or are you hearing it because the power of suggestion?
Right.
See, I never got into the audio stuff. It was always the visual.
Right.
But with audio, with all these recent releases,
Rescue Rangers and
5.1 audio mixes and 7.1, like if it were there, it would be gone by now. If Disney had anything to do with it.
Oh yeah, I feel like Disney would have. Yeah. This was my old VHS when we tried that one out, so it wasn't even.
You wore out your hi-fi.
Yeah, real suicidal midget situation.
Try to pause it on just the right frame, and
Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Or you could go 3 Men and a Baby with that too.
Yeah, I love.
Yeah, it's his cardboard standee of Ted Danson, but I bought into the hype too. I believed it. My brother told me that fucking shit, and it was before the movie was on TV. And I don't know how old I was, but I'd seen the movie in the theater. You don't look for it, you don't notice it, but once you're told the scene specifically, you go, holy shit. And you get a chill watching it, and then you watch it again in high definition, and you're like, oh, that's the fucking standee from the beginning of the movie. That's Ted Danson.
In any of these like urban legends with the movies and stuff,
nothing.
That is my favorite reveal.
Yeah.
It's a cardboard cutout of Ted Danson.
It is. But what's odd about it is I think it's in 2 shots of the movie.
It is one of the dumbest things.
And you're like, well, why is it there? It doesn't make sense that it's there in the fucking window. It was never there before. And it's just like this gliding camera move across the room, and you see it. And you're
that's
like,
true.
But I don't know.
Well, you can imagine coming up through the 80s, and you're getting bombarded with these rumors. You have people like Parents Against Subliminal Satanic Seduction, books thrown at you like Backwards Masking Unmasked, Dancing with Demons, and The Devil's Disciples, Truth About Rock. Books like this one, The God of Rock, which are absolutely hilarious when it's not being horribly racist. I mean, you could easily grow up believing that, holy shit, if I actually do this backwards, if I say the name in the mirror 3 times and then play the album backwards, something's going to pop up out of my backyard. That's an easy thing for a 10 or 12-year-old to buy into, and hard to shake afterwards if you don't get set
along
straight.
Comes Teen Wolf and
understand that
hangs
it's
dong
Ted
in the
Danson's
bleachers.
Teen Wolfen? Oh no, he's right about that.
Teen Wolf.
But you know what?
I want to see that movie.
I asked James Hampton about that shit too. Yeah.
What did he know? Was he in the scene?
He's standing right in front of the guy. The guy's right behind him in the in the bleachers.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah. And I go, what do you think about that bullshit? Because I knew, and he was like, I'd never noticed. No, I never noticed that. No. So what is the conclusion? It's his shirt, like sticking through, or yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
James Hampton is embarrassed that he noticed a dong.
No, he did say that it wasn't the longest yard he knew of. Anyway, you're welcome. So Yeah, no, he just thought he laughed. He thought it was hilarious that I brought that up. But I mean, I knew it wasn't what it was, but it was like this whole fucking urban legend since the 80s when the movie was on the home video and people would watch it all the time. And yeah, I remember that shit.
Well, you got to figure it probably
I don't
drove
know
home
about
video
bags.
sales of that movie pretty high. Just people wanted to check that
We gotta
out
go
and see if it was
rent
really
Teen
there.
Wolf
We want-
Even if
Dad.
they
they wanted to
weren't seeing it in
see-
the first place.
They wanted to see
Oh,
a werewolf playing
Okay,
basketball.
maybe it was
Jason.
maybe it's just
Duh.
me.
That's it.
okay, fine. It's just me then. I'm
See,
the only
if
one
you
who did
do
that.
Teen Wolfen, then is there wolf vision while he's playing
Okay,
basketball?
all right.
Well, there's definitely Dong
That's
in
what I
Teen
want.
Wolfen.
Call back to season 1.
Why didn't they
Teen
do
Wolf
Teen
Dad.
Wolf
Yeah.
Cop?
Teen
Oh,
Wolf Cop, that's
God.
the sequel. He was in high school playing basketball, but he never got over playing basketball. You know how he
Teen
peaked in
Wolf
high
Cop?
school, so then he just became one of the local
Ooh.
town cops.
Yeah.
Oh.
There we go.
But what's interesting is it's like this crossover sequel to Stand and Deliver. So you also had Edward James Olmos as the Finger Man. Yeah, and then you have Lou Diamond Phillips as Teen Wolfen.
I think I'm gonna go home and watch Wolfen
Right.
tonight.
Wolfen Tonight. That was a great one. When they did the Broadway show with the Wolfen.
I love how I'm
Oh, I thought it
never
was
gonna
going
Still have my
get
to
over
be
playbook.
like a late night talk show on TBS. Wolfen Tonight.
That would be awesome. In Wolfen Vision.
Happens tonight.
Finally, we got a replacement for Lopez. To the gate.
Yeah, we've gone all the way to George Lopez tonight
Yeah.
from the gate. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gate.
The other thing that I really didn't like, besides him getting thrown
Okay.
out of the house, was, and it takes you out of the mood completely because, like, at the very end, the last thing that you see, you get the sister and best friend are back, the dog is back, the house is
I
fucked.
think I know where you're going with this.
And they sit on the porch, and it still kind of has that gloomy, well,
Mhm.
what's going to happen after this? How are the parents going to react type of thing going on? But stupid ass Steven Dorff
Yeah.
puts his arms around the two buddies, and he's just like, "You're my best buddies." And that was the last thing you hear in the movie. And I'm like, God damn it, Steven
Oh,
Dorff.
yeah.
You almost made it through this one.
I thought you were going to say the part where the rocket goes into the demon and just kind of goes.
Oh, I don't
whoop
mind
right
that.
up in there,
That's,
and
you know,
like there's no explosion
I
or
just
anything.
imagined like a whoop, 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 whoop.
That would have been awesome.
That's how I dealt with it. And then the demon goes,
Yeah.
"Oh, wise
Okay.
guy, eh?"
Gate to the Mind's Eye right there. Hmm.
But it is a good movie. I like the movie a lot.
It was a pretty successful movie. I mean, it was made for 2.5 million Canadian, made back 13.5. So it was really, by any measure, a pretty successful film. I think it had most of its life on home video, unless it got a huge theatrical release somewhere else that I'm not
I think
aware of.
I think it had a wider release
Sure,
in
it's-
Canada
It's not like,
than it did here.
I mean, I don't think it has the staying power that something like Monster Squad does.
Which is
I think
weird because you'd think a
kid-oriented
movie like Monster
horror
Squad would
movie.
get canceled nowadays because
Same
they
with
use
this
words like
movie.
fag and queer
Same with this
and
movie.
stuff like that.
Yeah, that one girl.
The gate
Yeah,
said
the
it
one-
too.
That's true. He did call him a fag at one point whenever.
There's some pretty good insults traded back and forth here.
No, but I mean, it's par for the course of the way kids were. I mean, it's kind of like Bad News Bears. You can't apologize for that shit.
Mhm.
That was accurate, that language, whether it was
Yep.
in Monster Squad or The Gate. I mean, people said that shit
Yeah.
flippantly. They didn't, so I think it would suck if you redid
Yep.
it and soft pedaled everything now to appease everyone, and then what are you left with? You don't have any. Not that the movie is realistic, but you have to have a grounded sense of realism in some way, with the way the characters are written or something, in order for it to be acceptable.
And I loved the relationship between Steven Dorff and Al. I can't remember the
Oh, the
actress's name.
sister. Mhm.
Yeah.
But they had like
Krista
there was
Denton.
she had such a good conflict in, is she going with her friends? Is she
Mhm.
being loyal to her brother? That kind of thing. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, when she came back and had the gift for him, when he's like, I thought you were
Mhm.
going to the beach, and she's like, I spent all my money, and then gave
Yeah.
him the gift.
Yeah, there was a tenderness.
Mhm.
What we often see is like the older sister resents her younger brother in these movies. And he's always a creep, or he's always pulling
Yeah.
pranks or some shit. And she's like, wants to go hang out with her friends all the time. But there is a genuine love between the two of them that makes it all work. You're right about
Yeah.
that.
Because they had that
Mhm.
rocket connection for a couple of years. until she was like, oh, I got to go to the mall now.
Well, I was gonna say, it shows like how you can be close when you're younger, but then as you age, then that disconnect might form, especially
Right.
depending on the age difference between the siblings. But she didn't forget about it, because when he's going through
Right.
her closet, the one rocket was still in there and things like that. Because those moments
So
are
could
going to
we-
be cherished anyway.
Are we going to posit that maybe The Gate is kind of a coming of age story as well?
I could see that.
Sure. There's some of that in there for sure.
It's just nice to see a movie like this from this era that has that kind of like growth in there. It's what gives it its likability, its charm.
Yeah, it's not
It
like you
gives it
have this
that
shitty
extra
older
edge.
sibling the whole time where they don't have redeeming qualities and you don't care if something happens.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, I think with the exception of Terry, the Terry character, which obviously doesn't evolve at all, and in fact gets totally involved in the sequel, summoning demons.
No, I
again.
think he
learns
does. I
nothing.
think he becomes
Other than that,
obsessed
yeah.
and haunted by the experience, and that's why. Because the way
Yeah.
the gate 2 opens
He's got to keep
is,
chasing it.
yeah, he sees like the
No
destructed
spoilers.
house, and obviously, and what they do smartly with Gate 2, which, and I love Poltergeist 2, but it doesn't make sense that Poltergeist 2 has the same family in a way. You know what I mean? They've said fuck that house, we've moved away from it, yet it still follows us. Okay, whatever. But rightly so, the family has left. They've moved away. We don't know where they're at. It's not like the entity, it isn't following them elsewhere. But Louis Tripp, he goes by their house and he sees it's still demolished and it's sitting there, and that's the narration in the beginning, is that, you know, it's still there. And so it's like right across the street. It's in his neighborhood. And he lives with his alcoholic father. And I mean, he doesn't have a
Oh,
lot
it's like
to
he
go
never
with.
got out of the town. And what is
Oh
the
wow! So
difference
like his
between
father
it
was like a
time-wise?
businessman in the first one, and the second one he's full blown, huh?
Well, I got the
Yeah.
impression he was in the original too.
I just
Yeah,
figured
I
he
mean-
was because the wife had just died. He was focusing on business, and like so he was still absent.
Right.
And then I guess in this one he's an alcoholic, so he's even more absent. But he's also dealing with his own demons.
There you go. But I mean, how is he supposed to cope with the situation when he has to tend to his father and shit like that? So, yeah, he's haunted by it. But yeah, he, in a way, Jason, you're right. He doesn't really learn because he becomes obsessed in the sense that I'm going to explore this demonology. And of course, hell's a poppin' after that, you know? But that's
Also,
where we
if
have
he's still
sequels for.
stuck in his hometown, you have those moments. What is the timeline difference?
It's
Like, how much older
realistic.
is he?
Like, the movie was 91, I want to say. Yeah. So we're looking at
Okay.
4 years. So they're of that age. So he's in high school in the movie, and you know,
Right.
so we're his contemporaries. And
I'm really excited to watch it now because learning that it picks up like right like that.
Mhm.
Like it has a connection, because I always thought it was kind of like a cousin instead of a sibling as far as a movie goes.
A
Mhm.
direct
Right.
sequel.
I mean, I initially was disappointed with it, and I've grown to kind of love it more so over the years. But it's interesting, and there's a lot of love put into it. Like effects wise, you have the same Randall William Cook doing some great effects in that thing, and it is impressive. I remember being a little brokenhearted when I was a kid because our local theater had the poster, but it never played there. The State Theater in Corvallis,
I hate
Oregon
that
had it,
shit.
and I'm like,
That's
yes, no,
Shout out.
yeah.
mean. Damn.
Is that theater still there?
Wow.
I don't know. It was there for decades upon decades, and I know the Whiteside Theater was the other one, and the 9th Street Cinemas are no longer there. So I would hope, because that shit's been there since like the 1930s. So I would hope so.
Did the Gate 2 have the same people doing the music?
No,
I
it
wonder.
does not.
Because that was quite a tag team working on this first one. Michael Honig and Peter Robinson,
J. Peter Robinson,
who
would go
between
on
them
to
had
do
Cocktail, Wayne's World, Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
and Nightmare Cafe from Wes Craven.
That TerraVision pressing is really nice too. It's very quiet, and it's a really good pressing.
Does it have a digital download on that or no?
Highly advised. I believe
Okay, 'cause
so.
I know you can buy it digitally too.
I think they send you a
surprised if it
code. They
didn't.
email you a code.
Cool.
Yeah. But the record is such a nice package, even if I think it's geared towards people that aren't record collectors too. They just the movie freaks, because like I said, it's just as much a prop as it is a release. So it's really
and it's
cool.
the first time the score's ever been available. There was never a soundtrack back in the day, so.
No, I wouldn't have thought that there'd be a big enough fan base for this to have something like that done.
Well, Terror Vision's pretty awesome.
I don't know what the
they go
continuing
after
audience
shit
is
that
for something like The Gate.
I mean, I have the Elves soundtrack album because of them, thankfully. So
oh wow, okay,
that's real deep cut for most fans. It's on my Christmas playlist.
They're picking up the slack where like Mondo and
Waxworks. No, I love Waxworks.
Oh yeah, I just got the Dr. Sleep.
I want the Sleepy
score
Hollow
in.
one they just released.
What about Dr. Sleepy
Beautiful.
Hollow? Do either of you have that?
Oh.
Yes.
Sorry, my apologies.
Damn it, Nathan. I liked how drenched in that era the clothing and the aesthetics were in the movie, for sure. Like the Lee sisters.
My friend and I were talking about that when we watched it last night.
Oh yeah, the hair. The model rocketry even is very teenagers in the 80s kind of a thing. Absolutely.
Any of the house decor is of that.
Oh.
I mean, that was one of the things I think too that I really loved as a kid seeing it, is that it looked like your friend's house.
Yes.
Like that it was very genuine in how it was designed. And so that also lends to the creepiness, because you're like, this looks like so-and-so's house. Door.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
My friend has that same peel and stick tile.
My friend has that same dog that dog that they carry around.
Ricky has a melted phone too.
Now, and to your point, Joe, about the clothing, also the authenticity about, like Louis Tripp, the opening scene, he's got a Master of the Universe t-shirt on, like an iron-on or something. And I'm like, yeah, that's the shit you would see back then. And you go, yes, we were wearing that shit. That it spoke to us,
And his cut had killer dwarves.
Yeah,
on
which
it.
is that's a little for his age. I'm like, really? But okay, yeah, sure.
Anybody notice Glenn's Daredevil poster that hangs out in the background a little bit? Yeah.
It's pre Ben Affleck, right?
I just kept freeze framing and picking on all the little posters, but yeah. Yes. That's how I noticed that little Terry had an odd number of Duran Duran posters up on his wall.
he loves his satanic music, but Duran Duran.
Rio,
he had at least 5 Duran Duran posters are behind him when he's doing the thing when he puts the blanket on. I'm like, look at that. That's Simon Le Bon. Okay, that's the.
You know what? I'm sure Duran Duran was accused of Satanism in their lyrics as well. So why not? Did you spot the Engelbert Humperdinck poster that he had above his bed?
It's that wedding album, man.
No,
I did not notice that, Nathan. This thing you just made up? No, I didn't see that in the movie at all. Sorry, I must have slipped by me.
We have to talk about.
Maybe it was just in The Gate too.
Any of you fans of Tibor Takis's next film and Randall William Cook, I, Madman?
I remember liking it the first time I saw it. I don't remember anything.
Do you think it's one of those that you should
then,
keep it
since I was like
as
16,
only
17.
seeing it once? Or
No, I think it's a very ambitious film for its time. It's again, what they wanted to accomplish with The Gate was to be different than a lot of the stuff that was currently there. And that's definitely what I, Madman is. It's different. And you've got Jenny Wright and Clayton Rohner, who I love both of them, and they're the leads. And Randall William Cook plays the villain in it, actually. He does the effects and plays the part as well. It's a great little movie, if you get a chance. Check it out.
Because that guy doesn't have a shit ton of feature film credits. He mostly went into TV.
But his
after
features
that, I
are
think,
definitely worthwhile.
I couldn't find that many feature film credits for him.
Yeah.
I think I've heard the title, but I'm not familiar with the movie, so I'll have to check that out.
I remember Madman was another one of those that really made its rounds on cable TV.
Yeah, it was the distribution was shit on that one as well, basically. Although, I mean, The Gate was far more successful theatrically than I, Madman was. It was in the summer of '89 too, I believe, which was like, good luck.
Ooh,
yeah,
rough. Does anybody have any final thoughts on The Gate? We've all seen it a few times. I got the Blu-ray finally after being lax about it for a long time. The Blu-ray has a fantastic number of extras on it too, by the way.
And it has that awesome Vestron slipcover.
Yeah.
I don't think I got the one with the slipcover.
Oh, really? That sucks.
No, I don't think I did.
Oh man, I love them.
I'll have to make amends. I know there's at least 2 good commentary tracks, a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. They talk about the effects a lot. They did the best they could with the resources they had.
Did a phenomenal job with
it
the
looks
resources
fantastic.
they had.
Sounds good, looks good. Launched the career of Steven Dorff so he could be in Space Truckers.
SFW.
Power of One.
Power of One. There's a deep cut.
Oh, how about the funnel at the end? That effect was amazing.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
tornado, I guess.
Oh,
The portal
yeah.
funnel. That just looked incredible. Like, I was glad that I went back and, like, I was thinking about not refreshing and watching it, but I'm glad I did because I forgot about how effective that is.
That was kind of a thing in '87 because you had that in Evil Dead 2 and the Monster Squad, similar effects.
That is true.
Somebody figured something out and they're like, all right.
And not long after that, Twister.
Here you go.
So, hey. So you could say that the gate paved the way for Twister to happen. Otherwise,
Because Twisters never happened before the gate.
God damn it.
That's true.
Twisters didn't hunt people down.
I think Bill Paxton doing fish heads was the inspiration for Twister, and it's a long, complicated road, but it gets there.
You'll have to map that one out for me sometime, Nathan, on how we got.
What was his band's name? Martini Ranch?
Maybe? I don't recall.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I think so. It's not very good.
On that shocking revelation, I think it's time to close this episode down. Go see The
see
Gate.
Theater near
like in
to
the
you.
Rent
theater.
it. Stream it. Go to that theater in Oregon that's probably showing it by now.
They still have
Well,
the
they showed the
poster
gate.
up.
They just didn't show gate 2. Yeah.
Oh, my mistake.
But
Well, at any rate. Thank you all for listening. We will see you next time.
Open the gate up. Open the gate up. All right. Open the gate up.
Well, that was fun. And I think we all learned some valuable lessons on how to deal with various tiny demon infestations. Knowing really is half the battle. The Smooth Thrills Radio Hour is a production of Ghostcraft and is recorded live in a giant hole in the ground known as Dallas, Texas. Now go put on the Duran Duran album of your choosing and enjoy the rest of your day.
No, I've been